And I think this is the first movie I watched that didn't resolve in the end, like left it on a cliffhanger. G'day there, Dogman here, and thanks for joining me for another episode of my cinema experience. This is a journey that I'm taking as I reminisce about the actual movies that I went to see at the cinema. For me, cinema was a big event, big part of my life. The images and stories that I was exposed to at the cinema was a form of entertainment, but it was also a special experience. I come to the conclusion now that cinema is the highest art form that we have in our civilization. So try and argue that. Some people might say, oh no, classical music is the highest art form. Yeah, classical music is a big part of cinema. You see, they're all connected in. Photography, visual aspect, story, all these art forms tying in. And then you combine that with the technology that I grew up with in the 80s. It was projector technology, where they were projecting onto the big screen of film. So a light shining through the film onto the big screen, and they were just getting their act together in terms of sound, stereo sound, etc. And so looking back, I believe cinema had a profound impact on my life. And yeah, it's interesting just to look back at that and share it with people who may have had similar experiences or have a different experience. And, let me know in the comments what you reckon. So the year is 1980, and that made me 8 years old. Up until this point, I'd probably only seen about a dozen movies that I can recall. And here we go with one of the greatest movies of all time, considered by some to be the best of the series, and that is The Empire Strikes Back. Star Wars, The Empire Strikes Back. So the movie came out in Australia. It was released in August, I believe 7th of August 1980. But I don't think I saw it until probably the school holidays, the Christmas holidays, the end of year holidays, because it wasn't in the main cinema in Geelong where I lived that I saw it. It was in like the secondary sort of more independent cinema than the village. It was a few blocks back. That building's now gone. It's like a big shopping centre. Because I saw it in that other cinema, I'm thinking that it was a little bit later, more likely the end of the year. If you remember Star Wars, I saw that with my dad. And when it came to Empire Strikes Back, I saw that with my mum, which looking back was a little disappointing because it means my dad was like, oh, I don't get this Star Wars. One was enough, where it could have been a great time that we could have bonded together over what is one of the greatest franchises of all time in cinema. But apparently he was too busy or too above taking us to Star Wars, so I went with my mum. I'm grateful to her that I was given this cinema experience, because Star Wars Empire Strikes Back was a great film. But let's go back a bit. The build up to the movie, well, I remember being so excited. Part 2, it's kind of like, can it be true? Is it really happening? And I remember seeing a clip on I think it was like a morning TV show. It's a scene where Luke is going into a cave. He comes across Darth Vader. He cuts off the head of Vader and the mask fades away to reveal Luke's own face. And I did not get it. I was like, what is going on? I didn't know it was like a dream sequence or a vision sequence. It was just out of context sequence. I was like, what is going on? And I had heard a rumor from kids at school, I guess, who had seen the movie, that Darth Vader was Luke's father. So that brings me to the topic of spoilers. The term spoiler, I don't remember hearing it until maybe the mid to late 90s. And the term spoiler alert Okay, when people are talking on TV shows or YouTube videos about a movie and they're going to reveal some of the plot, spoiler alert. So that was not something I came across until the mid to late 90s, that term. Definitely didn't hear it around Empire Strikes Back. So is having a spoiler detrimental to your movie experience? That's the question, if you know the plot line. So my argument is no. It doesn't really matter. The story is only a small segment of the overall experience. So to know a plot point, and that's how movie studios, they know they can get away by giving trailers of little snippets of clips of movies to entice people and make the film look good so that people go, yeah, I want to see that. And people aren't angry, oh, I've seen too much of the film. You know, some people are, but storyline is so much of a small part. It is, it's an important part, but going into Empire Strikes Back knowing some of the key plot points was, I don't think it lowered my cinema experience overall. So I remember thinking, what? Darth Vader is Luke's father? Like, what are the chances? Seriously? I thought this is becoming like a science fiction soap opera. Probably around that same time, there was a TV soap opera that came out. I didn't personally watch it. It wasn't my thing. I was only 8 years old. But it was called Sons and Daughters. It was an Australian TV production. And the premise of the first few episodes was a guy and a girl, they meet, they fall in love, only to find out that they're actually brother and sister. And I thought, Star Wars is turning into a soap opera? It's like, how does that even happen? But I guess that's whole surprise, that whole thing of being tied to someone. The villain is your father. You know, Luke finds out his father is actually the greatest villain. You know, it's an emotional and a dramatic tool for storytelling. It makes the whole story more epic because it ties it in personally between these characters. Luke isn't just fighting some random bad guys. Now he's fighting his dad. So I found out about that. I did actually, because it took so long, you know, I was hanging out so much to go watch this movie. I got like a visual storybook where it had stills of the movie and a storyline, you know, probably pitched to young teens. And, you know, I was a good enough reader to read through it and got to the part where I was like, Luke, I am your father. And I was like, whoa, it is true. It is true. But I still didn't quite believe it until I saw it in the cinema.
No, I am your father.
And yes, it would have taken some of the surprise, but I think I needed that. It would have been maybe too much for my young mind to process in the cinema. I went in knowing there's going to be this big plot twist. And I think this is probably the first big plot twist that I'd ever seen in the cinema. So yeah, my memories of the actual film was that it was a great ride. It was a great experience in terms of entertainment. I remember, you know, loving the whole idea that Luke is being trained by a Jedi Master to become a Jedi Knight.
Luke, you must complete the training.
I can't keep the vision out of my head. They're my friends. I gotta help them.
You must not go.
But Han and Leia will die if I don't.
You don't know that. Even Yoda cannot see their fate.
But I can help them. I feel the Force.
But you cannot control it. This is a dangerous time for you, when you will be tempted by the dark side of the Force.
Yes. To Obi-Wan, you listen.
And I was like, no, don't go. Listen to Yoda. Like Yoda saying, don't go rescue your friends. You're not ready. And he was too headstrong. And for me, I would have been like, no, listen to the old little green guy. That's what I was thinking. And I think this is the first movie I watched that didn't resolve in the end, like left it on a cliffhanger. Han Solo was a great character. I loved his character. And to have him, have his, like, is he dead or alive? And he's been taken away by bounty hunters and just left at that. It's like, what? What happens to Han? That was a bold move by George Lucas to have that. I guess he knew for sure that he was going to make a third installment, Return of the Jedi. So he left that hanging as a cliffhanger. And I think George Lucas has mentioned in the past about how he used to watch these serial TV shows or movies when he was a kid, and they often left on a cliffhanger ending. So he's kind of bringing that into the Star Wars saga. And then when Lando Calrissian is introduced, it's kind of like, I actually remember thinking, oh, so the Star Wars universe isn't just white people. Like Star Wars, the first episode, all just white people. And now we find out there's actually different variations of the human species out in this far universe a long time ago in a galaxy far away. Yeah, so I did a rewatch recently, and some of my thoughts that occurred watching it was quite bold choices for the story. Having the main character, Luke, leave the main sort of storyline and go off to a little swamp with a little green puppet like Yoda was a risky move, and it could have easily been a part of the Star Wars universe that people didn't want to go. So now looking back, you see some of George Lucas's genius there, where he didn't want to just stick to the cliches. He didn't just want to stick to what was a safe storyline. He wanted just to tell the story the way he wanted to. So one of the differences that I realized watching it again is that they've changed in these modern versions. The voice of Boba Fett, I remember people pull me up. My kids pull me up, Dad, it's not Boba, it's Boba. But I would argue, even Tamora Morrison in, I think it's the Clone Wars, when he has the little son, he calls him Boba. Hey, Boba.
Boba.
Do this. So it's Boba, not Boba. Okay? Let's get that clear. But it was an American voice in the first edition of Empire Strikes Back. Now, since they got Tamora Morrison to play the role of Jango Fett and be the father and all the clones, they all ended up being Maoris, okay? So they speak with a New Zealand Maori accent. And so they changed the voice, which is pretty unique to the Star Wars franchise, in that they go and mess around with people's voices and scenes and upgrade scenes, and there's so many different versions of the film. Whereas most films, they might get a bit of a remaster, digitally clean it up. They might fix the sound, but making actual actors' voice changes is pretty unique, I think, to the Star Wars universe. So anyway, let's have a look and see what the Internet Movie Database says about Star Wars: The Empire Strikes Back. It's given it a rating of 8.7 out of 10, which is considered, well, that's the 16th or the 15th or 16th host. Top rated movie number 15. That means this is near the excellent range. So what a privilege as a 10-year-old to have in my catalogue of movies that I've watched at the cinema, the 15th best rated movie, as voted by 1.4 million people. So the movie won an Oscar for best sound. This is where I think the Oscars get found out, because the true greatness of a movie is whether it lives on, okay? If you're talking about the best picture for 1980, or the awards were held in 1981 in this case, you got the best picture was a movie called Ordinary People. Now, I've never seen Ordinary People. I've never even really heard about it until I looked it up then. So Ordinary People didn't live on, but Empire Strikes Back did live on. So maybe Empire Strikes Back would have been a more worthy recipient of Best Picture. So that's why I never trust these awards, and I reckon sometimes they're rigged. That year, Robert De Niro did win Best Actor for Raging Bull. Fair call. But with only one actual win, with Empire Strikes Back having one win only at that Oscars, I think that was a bit, shows that it's not always a true reflection of the impact and the greatness of a movie in real life. So what does their little blurb say? It says, after the rebels are overpowered by the Empire, Luke Skywalker begins his Jedi training with Yoda, while his friends are pursued across the galaxy by Darth Vader and bounty hunter Boba Fett. Anyway, that's it from me. Dogman signing out. Overall, I'm very grateful that I managed to have that experience as an 8-year-old, to just set the bar pretty high for future movies. Let me know what you think. Did you see Empire Strikes Back at the movies? Do you agree with what I've said or disagree? Let me know. All right, catch you later and see you next time.